On this episode, we're starting a new chassis design for Minitrucks. Stay tuned. Today we're going to start, I don't know if it'll turn into a series or what, but we're going to kind of show you the initial points and how we kick off a new project for designing a chassis. As you all know, we make a kit for first gen Tacoma, IFS kit suspension. We make a universal Minitruck back half, and we've had some requests and a couple customers are having us build full chassis for Toyota pickups. One the first gen Tacoma, another one for P Tacoma, early 90s Toyota pickup. And so we're gonna go through, kind of show you basically how we do it as far as the details and get the data and start that design process. And then we'll probably end up going through and showing some of the design process, the fabrication, and then all the way through. And then we're gonna have the chassis available for purchase. This is 97, 98 Tacoma. Standard cab, short bed, 2-wheel drive, 4-cylinder, 5-speed, like pretty standard truck, completely bone stock, 100%, no modifications done to it. So what we're gonna go do is we're gonna go through and scan the entire vehicle with a 3D scanner and get all the body information, the chassis information, the engine, under the hood, and under the floor and everywhere, and then use all that data to design from scratch completely a brand new chassis. Mandrel bent frame rails and all the chassis components, just like our full-size stuff, will be fabricated, designed, everything in-house. We'll kind of go over some of that process and kind of show you what's involved and what makes our stuff unique and what I feel is, the best product we can deliver and offer that's out there. So the first step is we got to strip down the truck and make it so we can scan it. As far as we make things easily removable so that, after we scan the outside complete, then we can start tearing the truck down. So this truck's already started that process. But before we do that, I thought I'd go over what we use here for a 3D scanner. And it's Peel 3D, Peel 2 scanner. It's a structured light scanner, and so this is what we use, and then I'll go over the software as well. The Creaform software. Peel is a sister company to Creaform, and then I have another scanner down here which is a Creaform scanner, and it's designed for real small intricate detail parts. It doesn't work for like a full chassis vehicle, but it works for like components and stuff like that. And then we have some scanning spray. There's permanent and there's disappearing. And then we have the targets, or people call scanning dots. We have adhesive ones, or we have a ton of magnetic ones that I keep under here. What we end up doing is putting dots all over the vehicle and then be able to scan it. So I'll kind of get into that when we get in more in depth in the process on the scanning, to kind of show you what you're doing when we pull the bed and scan the bed or do some other stuff, and we can kind of go over the details on that. So we'll scan the whole vehicle outside, and then we'll pull the cab and front clip and the bed off, scan underside of those, scan the chassis, scan the engine inside the chassis, and then pull the motor and tranny like we have here, and then scan it. And some things that I've determined on this truck is it's a front sump oil pan, so that's gonna have to be changed to a rear sump to be able to use the front rack that's standard used in our chassis designs and is more common in the aftermarket, and a better geometry and fitment for things. And then I think that's about all the modifications so far that I know that we're gonna have to make. The pre-Tacoma truck already has a rear sump pan, so nothing has to be changed there. It's just this first gen Tacoma. We gotta do that, and then we'll get all the parts, scan everything, show you that, and then go in and show you what it looks like in the software and how we process it. We've already started tearing the truck down, but I thought I would just kind of give you a brief overview of what the truck looks like. It's in pretty good shape, so the idea is we don't have to do a bunch of body work or paint. It's a pretty clean little truck, interior-wise, manual windows, doors, 5-speed, bench seat. Pretty nice truck. The idea is stock floor body dropped chassis to lay as far down on the ground, hopefully all the way down to pinch weld. We already got the motor pulled out of it, but you can kind of see what one looks like all stripped out. That kind of shows everything without the engine in there, we can see, but we'll end up having to relocate a lot of this. You know, we make the booster delete already for the Tacoma, so we'll add that onto this truck as well. And then new wheel wells or move these ones up. Not sure. I think this one's only getting an 18-inch wheel, 24-inch tires, so that makes things a little bit easier, but it's a pretty nice, clean, straight truck for sure. There's the engine pulled out of it. Get that all scanned up in details and work with that, but kind of gives us what we're starting with. So I thought I would just go over some of the process to do this scan chassis and what we prepare for doing the design on a new chassis. This is 98 Tacoma, and we have it tore down in the process, and I thought I would just kind of go over some of the steps. First thing we do is scan the entire vehicle complete, how it would be factory, all the outside of the body, the whole thing complete, so we have that. Then we start piecing it out and scanning all the individual components. So we've pulled the bed, the cab, the front clip, and all that. Then the motor was setting in here in the chassis, so then we would scan the chassis with the motor in it so we know where the motor placement is. And we pull the motor, and then we scan the areas that the motor was occupying to fill it in, and then we also have like a bare chassis with no drivetrain, no motor tranny and all that in it. So then what that does, that gives us all our existing points. Motor mounts, cross member, body mounts, cab mounts, you know, all that stuff. We can measure it and we can compare it to our new chassis. So then what we'll do is we'll take and we'll scan the engine transmission by itself, so that we have that if we need to move it from a factory location in the new chassis or wherever fits best for the new chassis, we have that as a unit, but it's still the factory item. And then when the body's off, we'll go and we'll scan underneath the floorboards, under the bed, all the underside stuff, and then be able to put that, because now the chassis is out of the way, so now we have a clear view of all the underside of the body. We know where the body mounts are, and anything that's going to be in the way of the new chassis. That kind of gives us all the different layers. It's kind of like a deconstructed, constructed model that we have of all the 3D stuff. It's the best way I figured out to do it. It's a lot more involved. It takes several days to do all this, but it gives us the best results on it. So you can see as part of the scanning process, we've done all these dots. We're using a Peel 3D scanner to do it. So this helps the scanner locate itself. So these dots help the scanner like stay oriented, and so it knows the exact dimension of the white circle there. I don't remember exactly what it is, 5 millimeters or something like that. And then it can orient. And so one thing that is important to note is you try to put them in random. Don't put them in like a grid. So if you randomize them, make them as random as you can, then the scanner, it's kind of like a uniqueness. It's like a fingerprint, and it can tell where it's at and it doesn't get confused. Anyway, that's chassis that's been scanned, and then I can come over here, the cab's up on the lift, and you can see where it's all cleaned off on the bottom. There's still a few things that we're gonna have to move to scan it, but then you come under here, you can see you got spot for where the steering comes out of the firewall, the brake booster, the inner fenders. A lot of that gets cut out and has to be modified for it anyway, but now we know all the stock locations of everything, and we can kind of make an existing model and see where the interferences are. We'll keep scanning this all up, and then I'll kind of show you what it looks like on the computer. So here we are by the bed. You can see Joe's laying dots down. And so these are pretty cool because they're magnetic. So since we work with the metal on there, we can just reuse these over and over. They just stick on. It's like a light magnet. We also have stick-on ones for, you know, if we're dealing with a bunch of Bondo or places, plastics and things like that. So we get this all dotted up, and then we'll start scanning this, and we'll show that process. It's pretty easy process to just go around, and there's a lot of tricks to it. It's just pointing the laser at it, collecting data. So we got all the dots on the bottom of the bed here, so we can get scanners all prepped and ready to go. It's pretty easy here. Get the Peel scanner, tell it we want to start, and then what you kind of do is start in the middle of the object. That's where you start scanning, and then you start working out, and that gives you the shortest distance to scan. So we'll start here. So then it just goes through it. I kind of watch the screen. I don't watch a whole lot of the part itself here. So this just goes through and scans, picks up location, and there's a set distance you kind of have to stay away from the object. It's like an optimal distance. So you just kind of got to work through and capture all the different nooks and crannies and everything like that. We just go through, scan all the different locations, the whole bed here. Here is on the computer. Just kind of give you an idea of that quick. We scanned all that, but you can see like I haven't got underneath that brace right there. I did get a little bit of the top. So go through, check everything out, and there's some tricks that we've learned to do it, to get it to collect the data we needed there or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of the basic idea. So we do this for all the different components, get them all scanned, and then we can put them all together in the software. So the next part I can kind of show you a little bit of just all the real work happens after we scan everything. We have to edit all the data, put it all together, align it, get it all congruent, and then we can start using it for the design. That's it. We'll keep scanning, go from there. So now we moved on to the engine, gonna get it scanned up. And one thing that we did figure out is stock two-wheel drive Tacoma is front drive, or front sump. It's rear-wheel drive, but front sump oil pan here, and we're gonna switch and try to use a front-mounted rack that you would commonly see. And so gonna have to change the pan to a rear sump pan. Took some doing, but it looks like they are made from Toyota out of T100s. So we sourced all the parts from Tacoma, or from Toyota for the T100, but it still bolts into the Tacoma for this 3RZ motor, 2RZ, same thing. Put that on and then pull the motor, put that on, and then now we're gonna scan it with the rear sump, so then we can design for the rack to fit right through here, up under here, where normally that sump on the front would be right in the way, right where we wanted to put the steering rack. So change that out, scanned it. Now we can use that to put into the chassis, the new chassis with the rack placement and all that. So get that all scanned by itself and then have that as another component. That pretty much wraps up all the different components that we have to scan on the stock truck. And then what we'll do is we'll correct all the data, get it all aligned, and we can go through that real briefly. It's kind of boring, so you won't want to watch a bunch of that. Takes quite a few hours, but get the scans all cleaned up, and then we can put them into CAD and start working on the design of the chassis. So one more thing that we figured out when we were doing this pan, putting it back together, is there's this cast brace here that goes in here from the transmission to the side of the block. So it now hits, and you can't get into this bolt right here because it's got to come in this way. So you'd have to drop the pan, put it in, but then you can't put this in to get the bolts tied up here on the pan. So not quite sure what we're going to do yet on this, but looks like some of it has to be clearanced out here for the pan and all that. We got some more figuring to do, and then this is a oil level sender that this Tacoma doesn't have. I'll have to come up with a plate to bolt onto there to seal that up as well, so we won't use that. Just a couple little nuances. Once we figure it out, we'll have a plan of how to adapt it. Now that we got everything scanned out there in the shop, we came in here to the office, and we're gonna do all the editing and fine tuning and get everything ready for the 3D modeling and chassis design process. To kind of review, we kind of go over everything so I scan the vehicle complete, get everything like on the outside, and that's what you see here. So you can see it's got all the body panels and just kind of the basic. We get the wheels and tires, we can measure, so then we can measure wheelbase and do some other things, but this kind of gives us the outside shell of the vehicle. Then we go in and we start tearing apart the vehicle to scan those different parts. So we'll take the bed off, take the front clip off, take the cab off, and then we can scan underneath. So on this, I guess we leave the clip, pull the hood, we leave the clip and the core support and all that on with the cab. We lift it up on, and then we scan the underside, scan the engine bay, scan all that stuff. So then we kind of get like a complete shell of a body, because here you can't really scan the underside. So do the same thing with the bed. We'll scan the underside of the bed and get all that as well. And then we'll take and we'll scan the chassis with the engine and drivetrain in it. and then we'll pull the drivetrain and we'll scan the areas that we couldn't get to with the engine and transmission, all that in there. And then we'll scan the engine out so we can get those areas that we couldn't get when it was all together. Because you can only get so much when it's all together, and it's nice to have complete, especially like on the engine. You want to get the entire oil pan and all the bottom side, because that's the critical components of when we're replacing it back in to the new chassis. Is we want to know that what the right height, and then the firewall and all that. You got to get the back of the engine and the transmission, the tunnel. You got to see where all the interferences are. We'll take all that data. We got a bunch of different scans, a bunch of different files. They're all big and they take a while to work with. So this is hours and hours of work that a lot of people don't see, but we're gonna go through and clean up the scans, combine them all, merge them, align them all together. So then in the end, I'll show you, we can basically click on and click off different layers and build the model of having the engine or not, or the outside or not, or the chassis, and like in and out. And then you can kind of like peel back the onion, so to speak, and you can see everything. That's the way that we found that works the best. It's a lot of work and it's involved, but it's kind of what gets us the best result. You can see here, this is just the shell of the body. What I'll do is I'll go through, we'll time lapse this because you don't want to watch a bunch of it, it's really boring. But for instance, on like this, we use some targets and some strategic tape, wood, all kinds of stuff to get us some of the scanning. And so I'll go through and we'll clean up this. Like here, we'll take out this, and in the windshield, you'll see we'll take out this strip and we'll clean up some of the stuff. Sometimes on the other scans, you'll see there'll be like the lift arms from the 2-post lift. So we'll take that stuff out of the scan data and clean up any erroneous data we got, anything else that it's scanned. And then we'll merge everything. That's why there's different colors here, is there's 2 different scans. So you can take, so we did like, right side, left side kind of a deal. And so we'll combine everything all into one scan and get that to where we want. Now we'll go through, add all the different scans into one drawing, clean them all up and align them and go from there. So we got a few of these loaded in here, and you can see how they all just kind of come in wherever. They're all separate scans, so they all have their own origin. So nothing's aligned. So there's a really cool feature in this software. We can start aligning all these, and we have to make sure that we scan with common features between different scans, so then it knows, and we don't move our targets, and we do some unique things to know on Mega how it align, and then it can help out. But you can also just use features. So you can see here, we got the full, this bare chassis, we got the engine, transmission. You can see there's part of the chassis here, and so we're gonna be able to use that to align. So if I turn off the body and I leave just the engine and transmission, we can go in here and we can align them. And we'll show you here what this does. This takes a minute for me to here set it up, but we're gonna we're gonna have the chassis and the engine, and it'll try to do it automatically. If there's enough overlap, it'll do a pretty good job because of the uniqueness. But if it can't, then we can force it. We can tell it manual. So then we come in here, see, so you'll have one scan on the left, one scan on the right. And so you can go through and tell it what are the feature points that are similar. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This is just getting it in the ballpark. So you kind of want to do like around. Say that body mount is equal to that body mount. And then come over here and find similar points on the chassis. And you just kind of work your way around to similar features. You can see it starts to create this ghost image here. So it's starting to get that alignment. So I like to get 4 or 5 or so. So that little bump there, that one there, and then you can tell it best fit, and it'll go through and it asks if you want to accept it, so you can look at it. So like on here, you can see it's kind of intermixed between the 2 colors. That means they're meshing really well. Some red, some yellow. So that means they're in the same position basically, and they're just going back and forth between, some captured it a little bit better in one scan and not the other, and things like that. But you'll notice there's no yellow because there's no engine. So this kind of gets everything all aligned. So now we can just accept that. And now we have 2 of the scans aligned. See, so now those are aligned. So then we just keep working our way through that. You know, we can turn on other features. We'll get all of them in here, and then we'll get them all aligned. And then you can just start basically turning off and on layers and then cleaning stuff up. We'll work through that and then show you what's after that and kind of the end result.